All right, I wanted to tell this little story. It's a little bit spooky. I don't know if y'all remember Twilight Zone, and then later on, there was a, pardon me, there was a show called Night Gallery. Um, those are two of my favorite shows, and I watched them on, I do believe it was Sunday afternoons as a small child growing up. Um, I really enjoyed them. I think it was partially um, the atmosphere of the night gallery, the retro. I was a 70, well, I guess I am a 70s baby, and so the night gallery was kind of a 1960s feel to it. And then later on, there was a show, and it aired on Sundays as well, but it was, I don't know if it was strange but true. It was in the 80s, and it would air little short stories, kind of scary. I did find one on YouTube at one time. I do believe Dan Aykroyd was in one of them. And it was, again, it was they're like spooky tales they would tell. I just can't remember the name of the program right now. But one of the stories really stuck out to me. Um, I would really like to see a reenactment of that show, or at least it be rebooted. Um, but anyways, I'll get on with the little story. If y'all don't mind, some days I have a little trouble focusing, and I am having a heck of a time with the YouTube app, and so I know I'm just gonna have a casual YouTube channel anyways, but it has caused me quite a bit of aggravation this weekend on top of life just being life. Anyways, let's get on with the story. So this story takes place in a women's prison, and there is a lady in it who is incarcerated, and I'm not quite sure the crime, but I do know that she has maintained her innocence throughout her incarceration. And she obviously wants to get out. She is a quiet kind of girl, and not fitting in very well with the inmates. At one point, she is in a physical altercation with another inmate, and she obviously finds it very hard to integrate into the rest of the population, and jail is proven to be a personal type of hell for her. And she makes friends with an older African American caretaker at the jail, and he, on top of the daily maintenance of the jail, he does the caretaking as well. So he's entrusted with the deceased inmates, and he buries them out behind the jail. And she, the lady befriends, let's just call her Laura right now. So Laura befriends the caretaker, and he's the only one that has kind words for her. And she has to help him some days along, be a help in the jail, and she is designated to clean and maintain the jail. And at this time, they forge a friendship of sorts. And she sort of watches his duties and what he has to do, and that would include doing the caretaking. And whenever someone passes, he has to pronounce them dead, and he has to also bury them. And she gets to know his routines and his daily endeavors. And as life goes on, it gets harder and harder for Laura to see any successes in this jail. It just seems like a bottomless pit of despair. So she talks to the caretaker. I guess it's a caretaker. Pardon me if I was confused. The caretaker, and I guess he's a caretaker and an undertaker. And she devises a plan that he will pronounce her deceased and bury her in the back of the jail alongside of another inmate. They used to save money on a coffin, they would bury two inmates in one casket. And I actually believe that was an actual real thing that they did do back in those days. Probably still do it today. It's just not announced. So he was going to bury her, pronounce her deceased, bury her alongside another inmate, and later dig her back up, okay, and allow her to escape the prison so she would not have to stay for the length of her prison sentence. And she was going to run away to a far, far away town somewhere and start anew and never look back again. And she would pay him, I guess back then commissary wasn't on the books. I guess they had some sort of cash. She would funnel him some funds in exchange for doing this deed. So every night she waits until the perfect night. Again, she has to wait for another inmate to pass because they bury them together. So every night she anticipates, is tonight going to be the night? Another night comes up. Is tonight going to be the night? Finally, I can escape this hellish hole. And she has kept a pack of matches tucked away under her mattress. So as the COs don't find it, she has intent that when she's buried, she will have a pack of matches to light in the coffin as to provide some light, because it could be, more than 24 hours that she's buried until the caretaker buries her up again to let her out. So finally, a few nights later, she gets the whisper in her ear, it's time. And it's the caretaker. And he pronounces her deceased. And she gets wheeled down to the mortuary, I guess it's called, the morgue, I guess. And all this time she has to play like she's dead. And she doesn't see anything or feel anything, other than being dumped into this coffin of sorts. And the lid is closed, and she feels the coffin being wheeled outside and dumped into the grave, and she hears the dirt dropping onto the top of the coffin, okay? And, she starts to get a little apprehensive. This is final. There's no turning back now. And but at the same time, she is gleeful and happy that she will soon be able to start her new life. So, a couple hours pass, and it's starting to get very hot in there, as it would. And she's got to do some shallow breathing because, there's not a lot of air circulating in that thing. And especially with another body in there, it's quite uncomfortable. So she's lying there, and she's hot and falling in and out of consciousness. You fall asleep because you're so hot, and then you wake back up. And she has no way to measure time, but she figures it must be, the next day at least. And she starts to, she's turned so the two bodies are facing away from each other. So her back is turned away from the other body. And she's kind of, she's lighting a match and playing a little bit of tic-tac-toe on the side of the coffin. But again, she wants to maintain her composure, and she doesn't want to use up all her matches. So she just does that to bide a little bit of time, but then she just sort of lays there, letting thoughts out of her mind. What am I going to eat when I get out of here? When I go on the run, where's the first place I'm going to go? What do I want to see? What do I want to drink? What do I want to do? She starts planning all this great stuff in her head, and she's waiting for the caretaker to dig her back up and let her free. So, the hours are passing, and now it feels like it's been 1 or 2 days, and 3 days, and 4 days. And by this time, she's really having a hard time breathing. She's hungry. A lot of other things are going on. She's just not comfortable, okay? So at this time, she decides to turn. She let curiosity get the best of her. And she decides that even though it's a real tight squeeze, she's going to turn her body around to see just who in the heck she's buried beside. Was it one of her enemies or one of the girls that maybe was sometimes nice to her? So she turns her body. It took a lot of strength because she's weak from not eating, and she's overheated, and again, there's not a lot of oxygen. So she finally wiggles her body around, turns. She's facing the buried body with her. And she sparks up one of her matches. And she looks in fear and terror and horror, and she lets out a scream. Because the person buried beside her is the caretaker himself. And ain't nobody coming to dig her back up. She was buried alive. Bye.